So in order to free our hands up from using the mouse to control everything, we can map external controllers or the computer keyboard to certain parameters within Live. So let's head over to the preference pane and set everything up. So you can see that we've got two options. We've got this MIDI control surface. So these are all supported control surfaces. My push 2 selected, and then I just need to select the input, Ableton push 2 live port, and the output. So look for your controller surface. If it's not here, don't worry. It just means that your mappings won't be instant. You'll have to map them yourself, which I'll show you in a second. If your external controller is not supported, then you just need to find it in the MIDI port section here. So this allows me to delete all of Ableton settings and use my own configuration of controls. So in order to make that work, we just need to set the in. So this is everything going to live. We set that to track. And we also want a remote control track. So I'm going to just select remote, and out, this is coming from live. So the next item that I want to show you is the takeover mode. So this is just how Live handles sudden jumps in value. So if we have none, and I have my volume fader, for example, really high, but my controller set very low, as soon as I move my controller, that volume will jump down to my controller. So we'll get a really sudden jump. Pickup will allow me to move my fader up to that point on the actual volume fader, and that will allow a smoother transition. And then value scaling will be somewhere in between, so it will sort of average out the time it takes me to reach my destination. So have a play around with those and see what best suits you. So once I've got that set up, I can go into my session view in this case, open up my input and output section. I'm going to modulate some of the parameters in my bass. So let's have a look. So I'm going to go to my input and I can select my Ableton push. So I've got two different modes. This is my automatic mappings one. So we'll start here. And as we can see, on my screen here, I've got a replication of my wavetable. So I can move my frequency around, and you can see that that is moving my frequency cutoff on my actual wavetable. I can also move my wavetable position. So once you have these instant mappings, it's really easy to start controlling. But if you don't, or you want a little bit more control over the configuration, I'm going to head into user mode on my push. And I'm going to just change my input in my input chooser to Ableton push user mode. And then I can start choosing the parameters within my session. And then I can map them to certain controls. So in order to do that, I need to enter the MIDI mapping mode, which is just this button to the top right, or I can press Command and M. And you can see everything in this purple color is then instantly mappable. So we've got our frequency, we've got our wavetable position. I'm going to move the wavetable position. So all I need to do is click on this, and then I need to click on my fader. Now, because my encoder that I'm moving right now, it's a relative encoder, which means that it's endless. It doesn't have a beginning or an end. So Live will try and pick this up. So I'm moving it quite slowly. And you can see in this section here, map starts to give it the correct configuration. If it's not correct and you find that it's a bit jerky or it's moving a bit too quickly, just cycle through these until you find the one that fits. When I'm happy that I've mapped the correct parameter, I'm going to press Command and M, and then can move up and down. I can also map some of my buttons that I have on my push to particular clips. So I can actually map this clip. Let me press Command and M. And then I'm going to choose that first button. And you can see it gives it a value. I can get out of map mode. And then when I press that button, I'll play that clip. In the next section, we'll look at the mapping browser. So this is really similar to the mapping browser that we find in our macros section. I'm going to press Command and M and then open my browser to bring this up. So I've got two parameters that I've mapped. I've got my wavetable position, and then I've also got that top line slot. I'm going to just look at the wavetable position here, and you can see that I can limit the range. And this is going to limit how extreme that wavetable position is. So if I just bring that down to 50%, when I then move that encoder, you're going to find that it doesn't actually go all the way up. It will only go to 50% of that wavetable. And there it stops here. And then finally, we'll look at key remote control, which is exactly the same as MIDI remote control, but we're just going to use our QWERTY keyboard to map some of the interface to. So let's go to Command and K, which is our shortcut in this mode. Again, we can go to the key section if we want as well. And then I can use some of my computer keys to trigger some of these parameters. So something I like to do in a live performance is assign my numbers on my keyboard to the track numbers. So I usually have no more than 8 tracks when I'm doing a live performance. So I'll just select the top and then press 1. And you can see there that 1 then corresponds to drums. And then I can move along like so, assigning one of my computer keyboard numbers to the track numbers. And then I can go around. So these are obviously going to be on and off values. So they're probably good for triggering things like scenes. You can see that I've already got some assigned to the up and down of the scene. We saw that in one of the earlier chapters. So if I press Command and K to get back out of that, as I move my numbers, you can see that I'm selecting those tracks. So I can have a quick look at what I've got going on with the devices. And I can also use I and K to scroll up and down. And I've also assigned the letter O to my session record. So as I scroll down here and press O, it will record whichever clip is armed. So again, it's up to you what you decide to map. It should make your life easier. So my recommendation would be to start small and then start building your set. And of course, you can save all of those key commands and all of those MIDI control commands to your default live set, so you don't have to keep setting it as you start a new track.